In the world of intelligence agencies, wars are rarely fought on battlefields. They unfold silently, inside computer networks, encrypted messages, and hidden rooms where decisions can reshape the fate of nations. This story begins with a man named Charlie. Charlie was not a soldier, nor an assassin, at least not in the traditional sense. He was a CIA cyber specialist, one of the agency's most talented hackers. His battlefield was not a physical one. It existed inside servers, firewalls, and encrypted systems that most people would never even notice. Inside the CIA, Charlie had developed a reputation for doing things others considered impossible. He could break through complex encryption systems in minutes. He could track digital footprints across continents. And perhaps most unusually, he possessed a deep understanding of engineering and machinery. Unlike most hackers who stay behind keyboards, Charlie liked building things, devices, tools, experimental technology. Whenever he had free time, he could be found in his personal workshop, designing strange prototypes or experimenting with new ideas. One weekend evening, while most people were relaxing, Charlie was once again working inside his workshop. The room was cluttered with wires, small mechanical parts, circuit boards, and half-assembled devices. In the center of the table sat something unusual, a compact device that resembled an experimental homemade bomb. Charlie carefully adjusted its components with precise focus. For him, this wasn't about destruction. It was about understanding how things worked. He believed that if you understood a machine well enough, you could control it. Just as he finished adjusting a circuit, a voice echoed from the hallway. Charlie. It was his wife, Miranda. She stepped into the workshop with her suitcase already packed. Her expression carried the familiar mixture of affection and mild frustration that came from living with someone constantly lost in projects. Charlie, she said, my flight leaves in a few hours. I need to go to the airport soon, and you're still working? Charlie looked up immediately, as if waking from a trance. Oh, right. He glanced at the clock and realized how much time had passed. Without wasting another second, he put his tools aside and quickly prepared to leave. Moments later, the couple stepped outside their home together. Miranda placed her suitcase near the curb as they waited for her taxi. Charlie looked at her and asked gently, "How long will you be in London?" Miranda smiled. "Just a short event," she explained. "A luxury charity function. A lot of wealthy donors will be there." She paused for a moment. "The event itself is only 3 days, but with travel, it'll probably take 4. Charlie sighed playfully. "I have no idea how I'm going to survive 4 days without you." Miranda laughed softly. The two shared a quiet moment together. Their relationship was simple, genuine, and full of warmth. Despite Charlie's demanding work with the CIA, he always made time for Miranda. She was the one person who grounded him. Just then, a taxi arrived and stopped in front of the house. Miranda hugged Charlie before getting inside the car. "Don't spend an entire weekend building dangerous gadgets," she joked. Charlie smiled. "No promises." The taxi drove away. Charlie stood there for a moment, watching until the car disappeared down the street. At that moment, neither of them could have imagined that their quiet goodbye would be the last peaceful moment they would share. The following morning was Monday. Like any other workday, Charlie arrived at the CIA headquarters. The building was a fortress of security. Before anyone could even enter the main facility, they had to pass through multiple layers of verification: facial recognition systems, biometric scanners, retina identification. Security cameras monitored every movement. As Charlie walked through the entrance corridor, several sensors scanned him automatically. His identity was confirmed. Clearance level approved. Access granted. Only then did the heavy security doors unlock. Inside the building, Charlie moved the hallways with practiced familiarity. He sat down at his workstation and began his daily tasks, monitoring cyber activity, scanning for security threats, and analyzing digital traffic. Most days were routine. But that morning, something unusual happened. While Charlie was working, an unknown hacker suddenly breached the CIA's network firewall. For most agencies, this would be catastrophic. But for Charlie, it was simply another challenge. His fingers moved rapidly across the keyboard as he traced the intrusion. Within moments, He isolated the source and forced the intruder out of the system. Problem solved. Or so he thought. Seconds later, a message appeared on his screen. The hacker had left something behind. A direct communication channel. The message read, "My name is Inquiline, or at least, that's the name you can call me." Charlie leaned back slightly, intrigued. Whoever this hacker was, they had managed to penetrate the CIA's cyber defenses. That alone meant they were highly skilled. But the message continued. "Don't worry, I'm not your enemy." Charlie typed a response immediately. "If this was an accident, I'll let it go," he wrote. But cyber intrusions into CIA systems don't happen by accident. So tell me why you're here. A pause followed. Then another message appeared. "Tomorrow, I'm going to give you information about your boss." "Your boss is a traitor." Charlie's expression hardened. Inside the CIA, accusations like that were extremely serious. "Explain," Charlie wrote. The reply came instantly. "I can't tell you everything yet, but tomorrow there will be a terrorist attack in London." Charlie felt a chill run down his spine. "The attack is being arranged by two men inside your own agency, Russo and LB." Charlie stared at the screen. Russo was one of the senior officials above him. LB was another high-ranking officer. If what this hacker was saying was true, it meant something far worse than a security breach. It meant betrayal at the highest level. But Charlie wasn't convinced yet. "I can track your location right now," he replied. "And according to my data, you're somewhere in Turkey. So stop playing games." For a moment, the messages stopped. Then Inquiline sent one final instruction. "Go to the CIA master server room. You'll find your answer there." Charlie froze. The master server room was one of the most restricted locations in the entire building. Almost no one outside the agency knew it existed. Yet somehow this hacker did. Now Charlie had only one question left. Who exactly was Inquiline? Without hesitation, he stood up and walked toward the central server chamber. Moments later, he entered the room and activated the master system console. Immediately, he attempted to track the hacker's location. But before he could finish the search, something unexpected happened. The system began running a hidden program, a virus, and that virus had already been installed inside the master server. Within seconds, a series of classified documents appeared on the screen. Top secret reports, confidential CIA records. Charlie read them carefully. Then his heart sank. According to the documents, several bomb attacks that had occurred in 2022, attacks publicly blamed on terrorist groups, had actually been orchestrated by someone inside the CIA itself. Two names appeared repeatedly in the investigation files: Russo and LB. Charlie slowly leaned back in his chair. In the world of intelligence operations, information moves faster than emotions. Reports arrive, alerts trigger, and decisions are made long before anyone has time to process what they truly mean. For Charlie, that realization came far too quickly. The day after the mysterious warning from a hacker known as Inquiline, the CIA headquarters felt unusually tense. Analysts moved between offices, security officers whispered in corridors, and the atmosphere carried the quiet pressure of something unfolding behind the scenes. Charlie had barely slept. The classified documents he had discovered inside the master server room continued to replay in his mind. Every line of those reports pointed toward a horrifying possibility: that two senior CIA officials, Russo and LB, had orchestrated attacks that were publicly blamed on terrorists. But speculation wasn't proof. Charlie needed confirmation. While he sat at his desk trying to analyze the situation, a notification suddenly appeared on the internal CIA system. Moments later, a message arrived asking him to report to the deputy director's office immediately. Charlie stood up and walked through the corridor toward the office of Deputy Director Elizabeth. Elizabeth had a reputation inside the agency for being calm, disciplined, and extremely careful with information, unlike many others. She had never been associated with political games inside the intelligence world. Charlie knocked once before entering. Inside the office sat Elizabeth, along with Russo. The moment Charlie stepped inside, he noticed something unusual about the room's atmosphere. The tension was unmistakable. Elizabeth looked at him with a somber expression. "Charlie," she began quietly. "I'm afraid I have some very difficult news." A sudden chill ran through his chest. "Early this morning," Elizabeth continued, "there was a terrorist attack in London." Charlie's mind immediately returned to Inquiline's warning. But Elizabeth wasn't finished. "In the attack," she said carefully, "several civilians were killed." She paused. "Your wife, Miranda, was among them." For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Charlie stared at her, unable to fully process the words. That's impossible," he said softly. "There must be some mistake." Elizabeth lowered her eyes slightly. "I wish there was." Russo stepped forward and turned on a television mounted on the wall. Breaking news footage began playing. The video showed chaotic scenes from London. Sirens, emergency vehicles, terrified civilians running through crowded streets. Then the footage changed. A security camera recording appeared on the screen. In the video, a masked gunman was seen grabbing a woman in the middle of the street. Charlie's breathing stopped. It was Miranda. The gunman fired a single shot. The screen froze. Charlie felt as if the ground beneath him had disappeared. His mind refused to accept what he had just witnessed. His body felt numb, his thoughts scattered, his entire world collapsing in silence. Hours later, Charlie found himself sitting in the backseat of a car while one of his colleagues drove him home. Outside his house, reporters had already gathered. Cameras flashed. Microphones stretched toward him. Questions were shouted from every direction. But Charlie didn't say a single word. He simply walked past them, entered his home, and closed the door. Inside the house, the silence felt overwhelming. Every object reminded him of Miranda. Her coffee mug on the kitchen counter, her books on the living room table, the faint scent of her perfume still lingering in the air. Charlie moved through the house slowly, sitting down in different rooms, as if hoping she might suddenly walk through the door, but the door remained closed. That night, he didn't sleep. The following day, Charlie returned to the CIA headquarters. Russo and LB were already inside a meeting room when he arrived. Charlie walked straight toward them. "We're the CIA," he said firmly, "the most powerful intelligence agency in the world." He looked directly at them. "So how did we miss a terrorist attack in London?" Russo folded his arms calmly. "We're human," he replied. "Mistakes happen." Charlie clenched his fists. "Fine," he said. "Let's say it was a mistake. But we can still find the people responsible." LB shook his head. "You've been through a terrible loss," he said. "You're not thinking clearly." Charlie realized something in that moment. Neither of them had any intention of investigating the attack. Not seriously. Not honestly. And that realization confirmed what the mysterious hacker had warned him about. Russo and LB weren't trying to stop terrorism. They were controlling it. Charlie left the building without saying another word. At home, the emptiness felt even heavier than before. Late that night, he opened Miranda's suitcase, the same one she had taken with her to London. Inside were her clothes, travel documents, and a few personal items. Charlie held the suitcase tightly against his chest. For the first time since the news arrived, he allowed himself to cry. But by the time morning came, something inside him had changed. The grief was still there, but now it had been joined by something else. Purpose. Charlie made a decision. If the CIA refused to hunt the killers, then he would do it himself. Charlie returned to the CIA building the next day and quietly entered the main security analysis room. Using his access privileges, he began reviewing surveillance footage from London, street cameras, traffic cameras, private security systems. Within minutes, Charlie had gathered footage from multiple angles of the attack location. 3 individuals appeared repeatedly across the recordings. 2 men, 1 woman. All 3 moved with the coordination of trained operatives. Charlie began analyzing facial recognition data. Within 30 minutes, he identified them. The woman's name was Celine. The 2 men were Lissandro and Monisant. According to intelligence databases, they were connected to Russian underground networks, highly trained mercenaries who often worked on secret contracts. But something about the situation didn't add up. Why would Russian mercenaries carry out an attack that benefited corrupt CIA officials? The deeper Charlie looked into the data, the more complicated the story became. Before he could continue the investigation, a message appeared requesting him to report to Russo's office again. When Charlie entered the room, both Russo and LB were waiting. "You don't need to investigate this anymore," Russo said. "We'll handle it." Charlie stared at them. "I already found the attackers in less than 30 minutes, he replied. "You've had 3 days. LB leaned forward with a cold smile. "You're emotionally unstable right now." Charlie understood the message clearly. They weren't just refusing to help him. They were warning him to stop digging. But Charlie had no intention of stopping. Instead, he made an unexpected request. "I want to be transferred," he said calmly, "to field training." The room went silent. Russo raised an eyebrow. "You're a hacker," he said. "You belong behind computer." Charlie shook his head. "I want combat training. And after that, I'll find my wife's killers myself." LB laughed loudly. "Sounds like you watch too many action movies." But Charlie didn't react. Eventually, Russo leaned back in his chair. "Fine," he said. "You'll get 1 month of field training. But after that, the CIA won't support you. No money, no protection." Charlie nodded. "I don't need it." Hours later, Charlie arrived at a remote training facility where he met the man responsible for preparing him, a veteran instructor known simply as Bando. Bando studied Charlie carefully. "You're the hacker," he said. "Let's see if you can survive outside a computer." For the next several days, Charlie trained relentlessly. Shooting drills, combat tactics, physical endurance exercises. But one thing quickly became obvious. Charlie wasn't a natural fighter. At the shooting range, he missed almost every target, even from close distances. Bando eventually shook his head. "If you have to get that close to your enemy," he said, "why use a gun at all?" Charlie looked frustrated, but Bando had already reached his conclusion. "You're not a warrior," he said. "You're a strategist. Your weapon isn't your body. It's your mind." That realization would soon become Charlie's greatest advantage. Because somewhere across the world, the people responsible for Miranda's death were still hiding. And Charlie had only just begun the hunt. By the time Charlie completed his training, the man who had once lived a quiet life behind computer screens no longer existed. What remained was someone very different. He still wasn't the strongest fighter. He still wasn't the fastest shooter. But he had something far more dangerous than either of those things. A mind that could outthink almost anyone. And now that mind was focused on only one objective: finding the people responsible for Miranda's death and uncovering the truth behind the conspiracy that had destroyed his life. However, Charlie also knew something else. Russo and LB were powerful men. If they realized what he was doing, they wouldn't hesitate to eliminate him. So before leaving the training facility, Charlie prepared carefully. Days earlier, when he confronted Russo and LB with suspicious documents, he had secretly attached a tiny recording device to the papers he handed them. The device was disguised as a simple paper clip, small enough that neither man noticed it. Now, sitting inside a quiet airport terminal, Charlie listened through his headphones. The recorder was still active. Every conversation happening inside Russo's office was being transmitted directly to him. Through the device, Charlie could hear both men clearly. LB spoke first. "The hacker knows too much," he said. Russo replied calmly, "Let him run. While he's busy chasing ghosts, we'll dig into his past and make sure he never becomes a problem." Charlie removed the headphones slowly. That confirmed it. They already considered him an enemy, which meant there was no turning back. Moments later, Charlie boarded a flight leaving the country. His destination was London. When Charlie arrived in London, he moved carefully. Instead of using his real identity, he relied on several forged passports and anonymous bank accounts that he had prepared long before leaving the CIA. Within a few hours, he rented a small apartment. From there, he began tracking one of the 3 attackers involved in the London incident, the woman named Celine. According to surveillance records, Celine lived in a quiet residential building and followed a predictable routine. Every evening, she left her apartment with her boyfriend for nearly 2 hours. For Charlie, that window of time was enough. One evening, after confirming she had left, Charlie quietly broke into her apartment. Inside, he began searching the room for any information related to the other two mercenaries, Lissandro and Monacent. The walls were covered with paintings and photographs. At first glance, the apartment looked normal, but inside one drawer, Charlie found something important, a handgun. He immediately took it. Just as he continued searching, his phone vibrated. A message appeared on the screen. Celine is returning home. The alert came from a mysterious hacker, Inquiline. Charlie checked the tracker. Celine was already approaching the building. Without hesitation, he slipped out of the apartment and hid nearby. When Celine and her boyfriend entered the building, Charlie stepped forward suddenly and aimed a gun at them. For a moment, everything was perfectly aligned. This was his chance. The person responsible for Miranda's death was standing directly in front of him. All he had to do was pull the trigger. But when the moment arrived, Charlie couldn't do it. His hand froze. Fear, hesitation, doubt, all the emotions Bando had warned him about suddenly appeared at once. Instead of shooting, Charlie turned and ran. Back inside his apartment, he felt furious with himself. Bando had been right. Charlie wasn't built to kill people, but he still needed answers. The next day, Charlie attempted a different approach. Using his hacking skills, he infiltrated a medical clinic where Celine had a scheduled appointment. Once inside the building, he released a harmless chemical powder that temporarily disabled the clinic's computer systems and forced the doctor to leave the examination room. With the room empty, Charlie entered and locked the door. Celine immediately realized something was wrong. "Who are you?" she demanded. Charlie stepped closer. "There's no time for games," he said. "Tell me where Lissandro and Monacent are." Celine laughed coldly. "You have no idea what you're getting involved in." Charlie poured more chemical powder into the air. "You have 15 seconds before you lose consciousness," he warned. But just as she began to weaken, Charlie made a critical mistake. He opened the door slightly to release some of the powder. In that instant, Celine attacked him. A brutal fight erupted inside the hallway. Despite Charlie's determination, Celine was far more experienced in combat. She struck him repeatedly and escaped into the street. Charlie chased after her, but before he could catch her, a van suddenly sped around the corner. The vehicle struck Celine at full speed. She died instantly. Charlie stood frozen in shock. The only lead he had was gone. However, he quickly grabbed her phone and escaped before the authorities arrived. Inside the phone, Charlie discovered something useful. Communication records pointing toward Monacent, who was currently located in Turkey. Without wasting time, Charlie left London. Turkey was a completely different world from London. The streets were crowded, chaotic, and full of movement. But Charlie wasn't alone anymore. The mysterious hacker who had contacted him weeks earlier had asked him to come here. At a quiet meeting location, Charlie finally met the person behind the name Inquiline. To his surprise, the hacker wasn't a man. She was a woman. Her real name was Sarah. She explained everything. Her husband had once worked inside the CIA. When he discovered Russo and LB's secret operations, he tried to expose them. Instead, he was killed. Before his death, he had taught Sarah everything he knew about cyber intelligence, hacking, encryption, digital surveillance. Using those skills, Sarah had discovered Charlie and realized he was the only person capable of stopping Russo and LB. Now their missions had become the same: revenge. But first, they needed to locate Monacent. Charlie eventually tracked him to a luxurious apartment where the mercenary had installed a private indoor swimming pool on the top floor. That night, Charlie entered the building quietly. Inside the apartment, Monacent was relaxing inside the pool. When he saw Charlie, he laughed. "You're brave," he said, "or very stupid." Charlie held up a small device connected to the pool's reinforced glass wall. "When I press this button," Charlie said calmly, "the glass breaks, and the pressure will send you straight through the floor." Monacent's confidence immediately faded. "Tell me where Lissandro is," Charlie demanded. Terrified, Monacent quickly gave him the location. But Charlie's anger was still burning. He pressed the button anyway. The glass shattered. Water exploded outward with enormous force. Moments later, Monacent fell to his death. But the situation was becoming more dangerous. CIA agents were already tracking Charlie, and among them was Bando. When Bando finally caught up to Charlie, the confrontation didn't go the way anyone expected. Instead of arresting him, Bando helped him escape. Before leaving, Bando gave him one final piece of advice. "Sometimes wars aren't won with weapons," he said. "They're won with strategy." Those words would soon prove true. Charlie finally located Lissandro, the last surviving mercenary. Lissandro captured him and brought him onto a boat. But during their conversation, a shocking truth emerged. Lissandro hadn't been the mastermind. Russo and LB had ordered everything. The attack that killed Miranda had been part of a much larger operation designed to manipulate international intelligence conflicts. But Charlie had already anticipated something like this. Days earlier, he had secretly hacked the boat's navigation system, without Lissandro realizing it. The boat slowly crossed into the territorial waters of another country. Within minutes, military ships surrounded them. Lissandro and his men were arrested. Charlie calmly surrendered himself as the informant who had provided the intelligence. Soon afterward, he returned to the United States with the evidence he had gathered. The CIA's deputy director announced the truth during a press conference. Russo and LB were arrested for treason. Their secret operations were finally exposed, and the man responsible for revealing everything was Charlie. Later that evening, Charlie sat quietly inside his car. Bando approached him one last time. He looked at Charlie with quiet respect. "Not bad for a hacker," he said. Charlie said nothing, but for the first time since Miranda's death, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. The war had ended, not with bullets, but with intelligence.